Much everyone for staying with us. So let's continue with looking at the result and how much of it we have now. I'm now being joined by yet another panel who are ERAD Analyst. We have Professor Remy Ayede. Thanks so much, Prof. And our very own Larry Arogundade, who is equally an ERAD Analyst. Thank you, gentlemen. This is what we're looking at. If you look at how the colors on the map are emerging, it gives you an understanding of what is going on at the moment, and allow you are the political scientist, you are equally a data analyst. But Prof, did you expect this kind of outing based on what happened in 2022? Can you juxtapose, can you extrapolate what you are seeing right now based on the strength of the political parties? Give us a sense of it.
I think there's a major difference between what happened in 2022 and now. We're not thinking that the gap between the two major parties will be this clear even at this moment. Because given the keenly contested election, we thought that for a while they will be going head to head. And it will take a while for us to begin to see the direction that the voting is going. But we see a very clear pattern now, and we see majority of the local governments going to Party A. This shows very clearly that contrary to our expectation of a keen contest, it seems that the pendulum is shifting in the direction.
I don't know why. Can we focus right here on the screen? Absolutely. So let's give our viewers a sense of what is going on right now. Ishokan, Irewole, Obokun, that is part of Ijeshaland, Ilesha West, Atakumosa West, and Olorunda, Borikpe, Boluaduro. These are areas that the APC is taking at the moment, based on the pattern that is emerging. Mr. Ogunade, what are your thoughts, and what were your thoughts based on what you see? Did you see this coming up?
Well, in a sense, we didn't actually envisage this. We were expecting a race that, to use the balance in some other place, will be too close to call. And but we're seeing, a big, spread, and this is interesting against the background of the fact that there have been some changes in the political landscape in the state. We are talking about 2022. Even before then, it used to be, PDP, APC, and now you have the candidates of the A party. Called moving to.
I don't know. Tony, can you focus? Yeah, let our viewers be able to see the screen. Other than this is what everybody is interested in.
One of the things that has been said about this election is the fact that the candidates of Accord Party, the incumbent governor, moved from his traditional party to a new party. Not necessarily a new party in terms of existence, but for him, it's a new party. So there were some analysis talking about the fact that the structures that used to be there for PDP, that it may not necessarily have it in accord. And but what we are seeing now, it will seem as if somehow, based on what we've seen so far, is been able to manage to have this spread, even with or without those structures. But you see, election in Osun State, remember, is always a tight race. First, what is clear from this is that we're now seeing a two-horse race. The gap may be more than we expected, but it is still
we thought that it was going to be a three-horse race.
Yeah, we thought it was going to be a three-horse.
We imagined that the ADC candidates in Ilesha,
because these are supposed to be there are some strongholds.
Absolutely.
But even those places have been shared between
you can almost take it for granted that the APC candidate.
Yeah, exactly. That could be taken for granted.
The last time around, the APC had sway there,
and then that trend is repeating itself.
Oshogbo again. Adeleke, because he was in PDP that time. But this time around, he's holding sway.
He's holding sway in Oshogbo, which is quite interesting because Oshogbo is, somebody describes it in a very interesting language. He said places like Oshogbo, Elisha, Ife, they're like, the Kano of Osun State.
Yeah, the KKK,
in terms of elections.
absolutely.
And I was saying, why the Kano of Osun State, why not the Port Court of Osun State? So sometimes when you look at those results, it gives some kind of interesting, thread. But what we could say clearly here now is that we're faced with the 2-horse race. So far, the projections are not going the way people had thought. But then, it's still a projection.
Prof.
In a sense, in the sense of Osun State, it's still early in the day.
So, Prof, did you, Ife Central, the 4 Ifes, Ife South, Ife North, Ife East, Ife Central, is all going in the color of Accord. Did you see this coming?
No, this is also very interesting. Ilaf Orogun, for instance, was keenly contested.
Mm-hmm. That's where the former governor and the former leader of the APC is from.
Yes, Chief Bisi Akande,
we're not expecting that to go that easily. And then you see the difference. Then you see the Ife local governments. It's interesting. Again, the dynamics of the political parties shows that there are areas where divisions within the APC has cost them some votes. Because one would have expected that at best, there will be a distribution that will be evenly spread among the 2 leading parties. But we have a situation where everything is a complete sweep. So it's a major change.
Mr. Ogunade, Ejigo. Ejigo is the home of the ADC candidate. Did you see that coming?
Well, no, I didn't see it. Well, in a sense, maybe, because some analysts have said that at the end of the day, ADC may just take some votes from the A party, take some votes from APC, and they may not really, be there. That is what, we've seen. But one interesting thing I've seen in terms of the analysis of Ijesha land is the fact that Elisha West. Where is Elisha West? So you have Elisha East.
Elisha East.
It's
Elisha West
yellow,
going
then Elisha West, and so if you look at it in terms of block delivery of votes, you have like an entire Ife going the way of the A party, but not the entire Ijesha land. Those little margins could end up making
imagine that the DG of the APC is from this area.
It's from that Oriade local government. Do we have Oriade there already?
Oriade is turning
so again, that reinforces the point that Prof was making about the fact that sometimes there are local dynamics that affect the way elections go, because the DG was not always in the APC. He had always been in PDP, and perhaps this is telling us about the fact that in that area the people feel dissatisfied with the fact that he has just come and then suddenly he has become a leader, whereas you have others. So one thing we're going to see at the end of this election is not just about the popularity of the political parties and the candidates, but all these local dynamics. Perhaps you had people who probably were carrying their placards, so use the word of Ezekiel of those days, in their hearts without saying it out. And sometimes in this area we talk about Orinumi or Rojumi or something like that. That kind of thing. So it's going to be something that Prof and other political science
is your young man that is you're not room or your show.
Make sure the program is
your young man is standing, but in his mind is
well, I don't know about that.
That's a very old adage. But I mean, it goes with what you're saying, that politically speaking, people might show you different colors. And even in the, let us also let our viewers know that this is an emerging trend.
Yeah, it's a projection.
This is a pattern that is emerging based on the results so far that are being assessed and being able to be processed. So if you look at it, for example, Prof, you will see the voters, the number of voters, the PVC, based on the results that have hit the ERAD just yet. And so you can see the margin right here, 52% for the 4.9% APC, ADC 1.7% share of the votes that are coming. It's a huge gap. This is the vote between two. You know what happened in the general election? When they give you Kano, you expect Lagos.
That's
when
right.
they give you Oyo, you expect Port Harcourt. They give you Katsina, you give them. So it's happening that we might just be hoping because local government like Ayerade, Ayedire, Olaoluwa, they've not just come in yet, and some of the results in all of the local government are still dropping.
Yeah.
Maybe any of these that turn yellow may turn red at some point, or the red may in fact turn yellow. But
exactly.
Look, one thing that is very important, look at the margin, 44 to 52. Yes, you see the widespread of yellow all around. It tells you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 local government compared to how widespread the yellow is on this.
And we're talking of 30 local government areas in the states, and a much bigger electoral map. If we compare with the Ekiti governorship election, for example, where we were looking at about less than 18 local governments, and so this is like close to double that, and it will be very, very interesting. The map would have been radically different at this point in time had the ADC candidate, for example, hold on to Ejibo. That could then have been something, and then the other areas, become, quite areas of a big, struggle. But it's really an interesting map that we're seeing emerging as far as this election is concerned.
Yeah, but significant local governments are still outstanding.
Exactly, you're right. And so we need to emphasize that.
And when you go back to the number of of total votes that have come in, you find that we actually have been
about waiting result upload.
Absolutely.
647,300.
This looks like 60% of the results. So there's still a lot coming.
So we really have to be very, very sensitive in our analysis and in our projections, because we may then have some local governments that would then become maybe swing local governments.
Yes, so far 28%. If you have the votes that are yet to be uploaded, 660,865. So it tells you something that this is a significant, and that's why I said, take a look at this number, take a picture of it. For now, things might change, because so far the result we have on the portal being processed onto the ERAD platform is what is giving us this pattern. But it's going to be an imagined one in the evening, and more hours to come.
Yes, more hours to come. Maybe
it also suggests that we don't have the results for 100% of each of the local governments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, some results are still coming in, and they might be significant in terms of changing these colors. And we continue to analyze them as we see them appear.
Absolutely. So I tell you something, Mr. Ogunade, since you are the one who touched on this, I'm going to get it back to you. You're talking about the Kano of Oshogbo. It is the Kano of because he holds the largest voting block in the state, followed by the likes of Olorunda, the Ede, the Ife, yes, and the rest. So if you look at it, if history is repeating itself, Adeleke is making himself the king of Oshogbo, politically speaking. Because if you won the last time around and you are also emerging as a winner in Oshogbo, it tells you something that Adeleke might be as popular in Oshogbo and creating a political
maybe as popular here as he
is doing in Ede. Because that's what he's looking at. If you have repeated
you see,
there pattern of win in the starting local
there were some suggestions that he might possibly not win Oshogbo, and people were talking about Oshogbo. But what we are seeing now is holding on to Oshogbo really means something very significantly. If this trend then continues, what it would then tell us is that for future elections, Oshogbo would then be the parameter or the measure of the political gauge of the state. That if you take Oshogbo, then it maybe because it's the state capital, and remember it's a commercial nerve center of the state. Almost all the ethnic nationalities or nationality groups are well represented in Oshogbo. Maybe there's a way it's telling us about the way people in the states, perceive the political landscape, about what they think. But I think one other thing we could talk about looking at this map is the fact that we're really seeing some level of what we could call high political consciousness in the state. The fact, and we saw this when we went out in the morning, how voters came and people seem to have been convinced that this is the way we would go, irrespective of what happens. So for me, it's a quite interesting dynamics.
And I think it's very important to weigh the performance of a government by looking at the state capital. That's the seat of government. The presence of government must be very manifest for you to score that kind of result. But again, it's also said that when you look at the in terms of public servants, the way they feel the government, the workers, and people also calculate that they have their legs in different parts of the states as well. So it's so important to win the state capital. I remember when we're looking at the 2023 election, the debate around the Federal Capital Territory. So it would be a slap on the governor if he does not win Oshogo. In fact, it will tell a lot about what is likely to happen in these more distant areas from the state capital where we are still awaiting results.
But again, one of the things that you need to look at politically and the popularity of the candidate, you look like at Bola Oyebamiji. There are those who will say in the little time that he emerged into limelight, politically speaking, and what is emerging to have become compared to an Adeleke who is being a senator, a governor who is seeking, it tells you that it's actually a keenly contested race. And for the fact that the sitting government is the one that is battling the opportunity to be able to prove yourself. For example, there are those who say, why will Adeleke not have some inroads in Ife? Because just a few days ago, he commissioned a bridge, which they say is historical in that area. So whether or not it appeals to the mind of those who have not made up their mind, or those who are undecided, it goes a long way. So it tells you about Bola Oyebamiji, Ambo, the man called Ambo. As you are driving into Osun State from Ibadan, his community hits you.
Yes, of course,
and you see his billboards all over the place.
Exactly. But then, but it's also been around too. Well, in terms of the governorship, you might say it's a new entrant into the politics here. But don't forget, he was part of a previous government. He held a very strong, portfolio that has to do with finance, and you could see that background even in the course of the campaigns, the debates, and the rest of them. And like you rightly said, it's a very, strong, showing. Otherwise, by now, we would have been saying, oh, it's a done deal.
But on top of that, he also has the backing of many stalwarts in the APC. From the president, who is also associated with this state, then the former governor, who has also put his weight behind him. Then, of course, two governors actually. So
two former governors.
Two former governors. Yeah.
Two former governors.
So it's really
two former governors. In fact, I'm not sure.
Be looking at,
three former governors, one former deputy governor. So Bisi Akonde, and Oyetola, the Chief Bisi Akonde. Then Iyola Omishore, who is also a member
of the party. You're right, former national secretary.
And you have the national secretary of the party.
That's what I'm saying. That the outcome of this. That's what I'm saying. That the outcome of this election might really be another case study on political developments in Nigeria, because depending on the way it goes. Because if it goes the way of Oyebamiji, then we would say, oh, it's because you had his, big, stalwart.
Gentlemen.
And then if it goes the other way too, it will be like, oh, the heavyweights. It becomes like a boxing tournament where you're talking of heavyweight, light heavyweight.
Very tight race.
Obviously, it's going to be a tight race.
Gentlemen, give me
because
a moment.
That is the tradition.
Give me a moment, gentlemen, because we need to go on a break. But when we return, gentlemen, there's so much more to talk about. The patterns are emerging. The outcome is also emerging. And we're looking at a race that is not determined just yet. Hold your breath, everyone, as we are doing right here, because as the results are popping in, we're going to be popping it on your screen, and you're going to get a sense of what these will become. We'll be right back, everyone. ERAD mechanism and the system on the dashboard for you. Professor Ayere and Mr. Arogunade, both of them have been speaking and analyzing the figures as we see. The last time around, the APC won in Oyetola, won most part of Ife. And what you're seeing is that those areas now are looking yellow But so far, this gives you an understanding. For example, in Osogbo, so far the result, this is not the entire result that we're expecting. They're still coming in. They're not totally in. So if you look at the PVC collected and the accredited votes are 63,000, the total votes cast is 62,000, but 31,000 are the results that have been calculated on the ERAD so far in Osogbo, and you can see the margin is still it's about give or take 4,000.
That's like 4,000.
And that is very, very dicey, isn't it?
Yeah, quite dicey. And that's why we keep saying that we're just looking at this. We're being very, very tentative in our projections, but we're just analyzing what we are seeing, the trend that is telling us. And what we're going to be looking at in the coming period is whether this trend will be sustained. Because if it is sustained, then it may point in the direction of what the outcome might be. I think for now, what we can say we have here in terms of these results so far are just like outputs. The outcome will then be who eventually, wins, this election. Which the outcome, which would also speak to the very, very dynamic nature of the politics in this state, in terms of the personalities, in terms of what the people feel, what the people think, and so far interesting. But like we keep saying, what we've seen now, what would likely not change, or what might not change, is the fact that this is a two-horse race.
Fantastic. So,
and the character of the state remains the same. In 2022, it was PDP and APC. In 2026, is Party A and APC. So, and we see these dynamics demonstrating very clearly that this state is a swing state. And at any point in time, it could move from one party to the other. And always, there are two dominant parties. And that's very contrary to our original expectation of a three-horse race. But as it has turned out, it's a two-horse race, and that remains the character of Osun State.
Again, I showed you what the number of votes that have come in, the margin, about 4,000, that were still between the two parties in Osogbo. Let's take a look at Olorunda. Olorunda is red at the moment. But look at the margin, 21,000 to 19,000. You see also that based on what is coming so far, none of the political parties can rejoice just yet. Don't dance just yet.
No, exactly.
Don't sing just yet.
I could just imagine.
Don't celebrate just yet. Just hold on and await the entire result to coming, and when INEC announces the result. Because, for example, in Olorunda, a lot can be expected. This is 100,000 votes. That is what
collected. That's the battle for 100,000 votes.
But look
and here we have 21,000. We have 10,000. So that gives us about 31,000. If we add this, it's still about 31,500, which means we're still looking at about.
Pay attention to the total vote. Look at the total vote.
So that means the outing here is very poor.
Sorry, that's why the outing is very poor.
Less than 50%.
Because it's less than 50%. But then, so we don't have this, and we're still looking at about how many votes now? Like 5,000, 4,000 that would come in. That men may change this, picture really.
Between them, now it's about 3,000 votes.
Yes, about 3,000 votes.
So if you are expecting out of 43,000 votes, of course, we see ADC taking 552. That means if you put 19,000 and 21,000 together, you are nearing just about a few hundred. This may almost be done.
Yeah, sure. We also need to make this point, and that's the fact that to win a governorship election, you have to win majority of the votes, which you can call the popular vote.
That's right.
And then spread across 2/3 of the local government. It would seem that for this election, you are likely to have these two parties fulfilling that requirement, and then what would then determine the winner would be who then has the
popular vote.
The popular vote.
Absolutely. And remember, in 2022, the difference was just 24,000.
24,000. And
I can almost tell you that APC may have taken Olorunda Because if there are total votes cast of 43,000, between both of them is about 41,000.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know, it tells you a big story. And the story is that give and take less about 1,000 votes, you know, are in contention or not yet determined, or we don't know where those votes are. But in the immediate, what we can tell you is that Olorunda, Osogbo, the number of votes that will eventually determine those are almost taken for granted that Accord Party may have taken Osogbo, while Olorunda may have been taken by the APC. It goes back to what I said earlier, that Adeleke may have enthroned himself as the political king of there is a monarch in Osogbo.
Okay, I was going to ask you, why not a political prince? In any case, it's Adeleke.
When you win once, you're a prince. When you win once, you're a prince. When you win twice, you
consolidate.
You become princes.
Of principality. So in that area, he has shown, and don't forget, this was a local government that APC had a sitting senator, the national secretary.
Yeah, that's right.
What has changed over the years? What really happened to the APC's fortune in Osogbo? But one thing is certain, APC is holding sway in some of his strongholds, and is not giving away some of where he has elsewhere. Gentlemen, let me allow you to go this evening, because I need to bring another round of ERAD Analyst. But Professor